All right, hello everybody, and welcome to Mole's Unholy Sunday Coffee Stream.
The
Today we're
moles
going to talk about eccentricities of religions and strange customs. I guess that's what I named it, so that's what we're talking about.
And what some of them words mean? Them's is long words.
Yeah, sorry. Eccentricities of religions and strange customs. You know, like weird stuff. Weird stuff, man.
Weird stuff. Gotcha. Roll Tide. Like Auburn winning a football game. Weird.
This is why everyone finds these strange.
I don't know if that's weird or not, so I'll say yes. I forgot you're from the deep South, where football is religion.
Yeah,
actually, that's true, isn't it? The deep South football is like religion.
It goes college football, Jesus.
College football, Jesus.
Mm-hmm. NASCAR, if you're like really redneck, like college football, NASCAR, then Jesus. But Jesus makes the top three every time.
He's a top contender every time, huh?
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, he's our Lord and Savior.
Well, he's not my Lord and Savior.
Kick back, my Lord and Savior, as I watch a bunch of men who you created kick around a pigskin.
Yeah, but all sports seem ridiculous if you go reductionist.
They are.
I mean,
sure. Like in soccer, here, Lord, watch a few pansies fight over a net.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's not a sport that's not ridiculous. Whenever you start breaking it down.
Yeah, all of them are utterly.
Have you seen those Greeks play sports? They get NC.
Well, that's where the Olympics come from, there, man. The original sportsters.
Yes.
They're the OG gangsters of sports. All right. So anyway, we're going to talk about weird religions and strange customs in religion. So, anybody want to start? Like, do you want to start with personal experiences? Then we can go on to the weirder and unknown religions and customs.
Well, I can tell you this. It might not be a strange custom, but I live in Utah where there's a bunch of Mormons. And I was just sitting up like 4 a.m, just playing just some random game. And I hear a knock on the door. And it's a couple of missionaries.
At 4 a.m?
At 4 a.m. I'm not shitting you. I open up that door and lo and behold, there's some fucking missionaries. I go, what the hell are you doing here? And they go, we're asking you to come and join our church and accept the Lord into your heart. And I just said, okay, fuck off. Have a good night. And then closed the door on them.
4 o'clock in the morning. That's strange. That is definitely strange.
That's a good way to get shot here.
Yeah. Right. Good way to get shot anywhere, really, to be honest.
In Utah, we don't like guns. All the LDS is like, nope, no guns.
Talking about while we're at it, Mormons are quite unusual. Does anybody know any strange and unusual Mormon customs besides magic underwears? And that's strange enough.
Well, they're the ones that like marry extremely young too, though, aren't they? Like 13 and 14-year-old arranged marriages.
Yes.
I get them and the Jehovah's Witness confused.
Some sects of.
Yeah, there's the FDLs, right? The FDLs are like the fundamentalists that are hardcore into that. But I don't think that's representative of the entire Mormon.
No, it's not a popular belief. It's not a popular thing in the Mormon system, but it's there.
That's a strange custom.
Hello.
Child molestation.
Yes, that is most certainly a strange custom, and it's not too unusual for a lot of the religions to have that one involved in their little arsenal of weird eccentricities.
Well, it was pretty typical of Muhammad.
Great guy, Muhammad.
Yeah, great.
Yeah,
great,
right.
Good soccer player, I think.
Yeah, he was a great child raping dude.
Yeah, good dude. Of all my favorite illiterate Arabs, Muhammad top of the list.
Number one.
Top of the list. We should all like draw pictures of him and spread them all over the internet.
I already did that once.
Here's what's funny. I go over to my buddy's place. I stay over the night, and he has this picture of Muhammad on his wall. He takes it off every morning and just punches it down the hall.
I like this guy already. Me and this guy could be friends.
What's his name? Get him in here.
Yeah.
Right.
We want to see the
okay.
Muhammad puncher.
If you want that, I can do that.
Get him in here. If he punches Muhammad, he likes weird things.
Sure. Let me ask him if he wants to join
Oh, hey,
in.
Red. How's it going?
There's Red.
Hey, Mole. Hey, guys.
How are you, buddy?
Oh, Red is too smart.
He's too smart?
Yeah, he's a smart
Is
dude.
that really can that be a thing? Can you be too smart? I suppose you could be.
No. It ain't it.
Like that.
Well, when you're too smart, just a bunch of jokes fly over your head.
No, I
Nowadays,
was
I want to be smart.
just put a compliment. Red is a smart dude.
Well, thanks for that.
You're welcome, dude.
So what are we on to this morning?
We were talking about how like Muhammad likes to fuck children.
Yep.
I think most of them like to fuck children.
Sorry, Mom, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Most Muhammads like to fuck children?
No, Muhammad likes to fuck children in general.
Like, what? Is that a statistic somewhere?
No, I just
Broken English.
I don't know.
Later,
Is
Snail.
there a parrot attacking me?
Yeah,
Oh,
dude.
fuck is that?
That.
Where are
Dude,
you
fight
at?
back.
Me? I'm in my room. There's no birds in here.
The bird's lands in.
Moles are scared of birds. Get that thing away from me. Fucking eat me.
I'm pretty sure Duke is dead.
No, I think he had to mute for it.
Not dead. Not dead.
Oh, no, okay, he's back.
Dude got carried off by a fucking hawk.
I expected it to unmute and the bird start back up. Just, I've killed him. Oh, there it is. Get a Florida man to scale that tree and get that thing away.
Sorry, guys.
What'd you do to piss off compelled unbeliever there? Who's picking the bird on you?
That's straight. So let's talk about some weird religions. Caw and birds. Are there any bird religions?
I think they used to have one in Egypt. Like there was a god in Egypt.
Quetzalcoatl was a bird, wasn't he?
Yeah, there were a bunch of birds. There's a bunch of birds in the polytheistic traditions.
Yeah.
The Quetzalcoatl, like the Aztec bird, like the bird.
Yeah.
It doesn't help that
whatever his name is.
it doesn't help that the character I'm based around is kind of based on birds.
It's the old trickster gods that were like ravens and stuff. Hello, by the way.
Everybody's
Hey, Badger, what's up, buddy?
You know, we have a badger and a moon here. Why don't you fight?
Because we're team members, man. We're the underground heathens. We got to stay on the same team.
Also,
All
it's
you land
afternoon
dwellers
here.
fucking overtake us.
Hey, I'm just saying, I've seen badgers kill moles before, so
Also, it's mid-afternoon here, so
mid-afternoon. Where are you?
Good afternoon. Where does he sound like he's at?
Well,
I wonder where could I possibly be from? with my voice sounding like
Hey,
that.
Avatar, what do you think that?
where you are?
Just a moment while I have my cup of tea.
Hey, I was talking to Riz, and he sounded like you.
He's just
Some good
a twin,
tea.
man.
Georgia.
But yes, I'm a proper English British United Kingdom badger.
He's
Well,
a
it's not
proper
diverse
badger.
enough. You're still white.
Hey,
You're from Narnia. You're from Narnia.
is Sunday the day?
From Narnia, yes, I'm from Narnia.
Is Sunday the day to play football in the UK as well, or is it Saturdays over there?
I don't actually know.
I mean, like
All I
professional,
know is-
like professional footballers. I mean, what day do
All
they
I know
play
is
their
that
games?
on certain days when I'm trying to drive somewhere, half the city will be in absolute gridlock because everyone's trying to get to the stadium.
Oh, well, what days are them?
I don't know. I don't pay attention to the football.
Oh,
He's
I
a
mean, like,
badger. He
it's
doesn't
not
understand days.
I meant like, like in America, we have football on Sundays. Sunday is football day. Like, is there a day in the UK that's football day? Like Saturdays, Sundays, Fridays? I'm just asking, is there a day when it's most particularly played?
They usually play all
There
throughout
could
the
be.
week.
There could be.
Oh, is it like baseball and basketball? We just play whatever day.
Or like
No,
Hi,
no, no, no.
guys.
We don't do that. None of that heathen baseball over here. We play cricket.
Yeah.
Cheerio.
You guys have rounders. That's sort of baseball.
Oh yeah, we do have rounders.
It's like baseball that makes less sense.
Right.
Well, I do agree that sports are religious, kind of like religion, but they're not exactly religious. So let's talk about religion.
Well,
they are.
Sports enthusiasts are like cosplayers, really. They go and dress up as their favorite characters.
Well, didn't they have like certain kinds of sports where they would play to please their gods?
Oh, yes. Which ones are
Oh,
those?
yeah, the Aztecs didn't they?
Yeah.
With that
Yeah.
hit ball where they like fucking had to get through the. And didn't the winner get their head chopped off? That doesn't sound like a very good prize. I wouldn't want to win. I would try to lose. I'd be the biggest loser in the city. I wouldn't care.
Yeah, I'm really crap at this game. You shouldn't even put me in it.
It'd be like that episode of South Park where they're trying to lose baseball so they don't have to play anymore.
That was me whenever they tried to get me to play football.
Yeah, I've
It
never
would be
been a
me.
sports person.
It would be me in defense, in big air quotes, and another guy in goal, and we'd just stand at the other end of the pitch and just talk to each other throughout the whole game, unless the ball kind of came in our direction, in which case I'd sort of half-heartedly attempt to kick it.
Basically, everyone in
They
the
just-
class.
If they go, well, why don't you chase the ball? Play and get into it. It's like, I don't want to be here.
That's not that
want to
far
be
from
in
American
bed.
schools. That's really not that far off from American schools. Like that's kind of like our running the lap. Like I'd get out there and be like, "Fuck this, I'm walking."
I didn't mind running because I did that by myself. I just
That
didn't
is
like
the
the team
most-
sports because my classmates
That's
were
the most
idiots.
boring pastime ever. It's got to be. I mean, like I don't even run if someone's chasing me. So that is not my idea of a good time.
So that's why you're a mole. You live underground. You don't have to
Yeah,
run,
no.
man.
I have to burrow quickly, I guess. Burrow fast. I got to get out of here.
I can add a little bit of something to this because I am in high school right now. So
Ooh.
our
Right
gym
now?
class is really weird. You can actually just pass the class by just writing notes about what you're doing that day.
What the fuck is school
You
turned
don't
into?
even have to participate in the activities. All you have to do is just
I don't agree with
write
this.
down.
I
Right.
think
All we
kids
have to do is just write down, hey, we did sit-ups this day.
See, I'm not against. I was never a fan of the whole. It would be PE over here, physical education. I was never a fan
same
of
here.
PE lessons,
Yeah, that's what we have.
but I wouldn't expect to pass it by not doing it.
Right. Right. Well, our gym
expect-
teacher is just like this, like 300-pound, just fat ass. So he doesn't give a shit.
So this is a little bit off topic here, but I was attempting to Google the various religions that use sports to please their gods because I know the Aztecs did, and I know several Native American tribes did as well.
More on topic than the rest of the conversation, actually.
And
Yeah,
but here we go. So this is where it gets off topic. Has anybody noticed like an incredible Christian bias with Google search results? Like I can search like ancient religions that worshipped multiple gods that glorified them through sports, and I get pleasing Jesus through sports. How to glorify God through sports. How to coach with a godly attitude. Like, man, it's not what I was looking for, Google.
I'm sure he would be pleased by a bunch of men running around in a field.
So I've
Spent a lot of time with a bunch of men.
If I was a god, that would please me.
man. So, and then looking through these articles, Like this, it's a weird tradition that Christians have, which is trying to bring it back on the topic, which is basically anything. I'm gonna just gerrymander it into being related to God, so I can feel good about it because, like, you know,
absolutely,
it's me.
Mm-hmm.
Gambling for God.
Yeah, exactly. It's like anything like that. Like, I really love football, but we got to put some Jesus in there somewhere. So pray at the end, and God likes football. You know? Come on.
Like if both teams are praying to win, like does like God do a coin flip, or is that how he decides the winner?
Oh, jeez.
Like
Well,
they're both praying, so
he would have already
gotta
known
flip
the winner,
The winner
ahead of time.
The winner was.
Oh, yeah, sure, Bible.
Yeah,
I'll
the
send
winner
you a
was.
link.
Well, here's the thing: when the players rage, are they going against God's will to not be violent?
See, I don't know which God. I mean,
Uh,
which version of the Christian God are we talking about
They're
here?
Playing the
anyone,
Amalekites.
the one that the normies seem to love.
The normies love. Normie God.
Normie God.
Normie God.
Normie God.
Would that be the Jesus? Is he the normie God?
Oh, Jesus.
Gentle Jesus, meek and mild.
Gentle Jeebus.
Yeah, I can't find anything. I'm like, we need a non-Christian Google here. Worship is a lifestyle. Everything you do can glorify God. Like, so if I'm railing a freaking male hooker, Jesus is like, yeah, get it, boy.
Oh, God.
Who writes these articles?
I don't know. What site are you on right now?
What are you trying to find?
I'm attempting. I got off on a tangent, but I was attempting to find ancient religions that glorified their gods through sports.
Venerated.
And yeah, and it got kind of.
It's likely the wording. You know what I mean? It's likely the wording. Like you're putting glorified God. And
No. Like I've searched a bunch of different things.
Oh, okay.
Would throwing a baby be considered a sport?
Only if it's put in water.
Okay.
Well, I mean, you know, as long as there's some rules surrounding and other people are into it, sure. And there's
there's that old Indian custom. I guess I assume it's an old Indian custom. It's what it says anyway. Where they babies between the ages of 1 and 2 are thrown from 50-foot towers with men positioned to beneath to catch the baby in sheets. I wonder if they ever missed.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
But if they missed, it was the will of God that
It
shall.
was that was what God wanted.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure
The 700-year-old ceremony is believed to have made children more intelligent, luckier, and healthier. And is practiced both by Muslims and Hindus in the region. Strange. Well, I suppose they would be more luckier if they didn't die. I suppose I would consider luck.
I'm pretty sure that in the same way that some Jewish children get herpes when they get circumcised, that at least 1 or 2 children have been missed.
Yeah, circumcision. There's a weird religious tradition.
Yeah,
Let's cut off the end of our penis.
I've got a bit. That's a bit of a
God.
big thing for me. That one, I'll be all over that one.
Do you think that was originally intended for to cut down on disease, or do you think it was
No, it was. I would be willing to bet that it was like all the other things that whenever the Jews, the Israelites, separated from the Canaanites, they needed to distinguish themselves further, so they did all this.
I cut off my penis.
Yeah, I mean, well, they did we don't shave the sides of our beard, and we don't wear mixed cloth, and we don't eat shellfish, and we don't eat pork, and they were written down as divine mandates, but they were basically just a way to distinguish them from other tribes. And what a better way than to cut part of your dick off, because you better be freaking committed
that
to be
is
doing
commitment.
that. Like, and you, hey, I want to join your group. Cut the end of your dick off. No, I don't want to join your group anymore. If somebody cuts the end of their dick off, They're in it.
This is the only religion that. This is
There
the
is
only
no
religion I'm
going
interested in at the moment. The only religion that I'm particularly willing to join is this one that I'm currently showing you right now. This is the best religion currently going.
Pedophilia.
Pedophilia?
That's the same thing I said.
I don't
No,
know
no.
what this is. I just
I
found
don't
it.
know what
It
this
just
is.
popped up in my Twitter feed. Like, hi.
Yeah,
No, but
I don't.
like the version of circumcision I'm talking about is the hardcore Hasidic version, where
Oh,
like
yeah,
the
where they.
priest,
They chew it off.
Ah,
yeah, they really they cut the foreskin and they suck it off with their mouth, and like the priest gave like multiple kids herpes and kids died from it. Like
You know that all came from there was just this fucking weird pedo priest, like rabbi, and he's like, God says I have to like chew the baby's penis off, so I have to do it. I can't do it.
that was
Some guy.
that was a
It
glorious
was like
accent.
Italian almost less than, yeah, I'm sorry. I should be tried that. I thought it would.
It was the Italian Jew.
Concept is
you're
made.
trying to lighten the mood. It didn't work.
Yeah, I know. Fuck it. Whatever. It's not the first time I failed in life.
I
But
would
anyway,
love to see as if it was like a joke. It's just like, oh, I'm gonna chew the kid's penis off. No, that was a joke.
And then he was like, "But God told me to do it." And they were like, "Well, if God told you to do it, you got to do it."
Well, I guess it's okay.
I would like I'd like a second opinion, please. No. I think that circumcision goes back further than even the Jews, though. I think that the Egyptians had a form of it maybe even further back than the Christians. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they
I
did.
think I read that.
Does anybody
That
know?
wouldn't surprise me.
I wouldn't surprise me in the sense that if you look at like humans trying to beautify themselves, you know what I mean? Like the beautification process. It's not that far fetched in the same sense that like people will undergo like massive amounts of plastic surgery to make themselves look a certain way. It's not that far fetched to think that humans just looked at the male penis and thought, well, it would look a lot better if you just cut the foreskin off. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Like trimmed.
Well, that would look better trimmed up. But, I think that the Egyptian form, though, they they didn't get the circumcision until they reached puberty. So at manhood, it was like a manhood ritual. So
I think that's some African tribes. Yeah.
That's a little counterproductive.
Well, that makes sense though. The same way that like the North American tribes would hang themselves from hooks.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to be pretty badass to fucking have someone chop the tip of your wiener off and you not like make a squeak. You know, I'm sure that would. I guess that would count. You know, like it'd be hard not to. You know. I'm sure.
Well, let's be fair. It's not the actual. It's not the tip of your wiener. It's the skin surround.
But still, I mean,
They're going around.
Still,
it must be snipping season again. I can hear the coming from all the huts.
That's funny. Now that was definitely a mood lightener. That was a good one. I like that.
That was good.
That was most certainly good.
All right, so I got one from my childhood. I was raised independent Baptist, so I was actually raised to believe that the Catholic Church was the whore of Babylon from Revelation.
Huh?
Kid you not. I kid you not. Like, not only was the Catholic Church the whore of Babylon, like when the rapture happened and all the Christians were taken off the planet, the Antichrist would rise and the false prophet would be the Pope.
Oh, that whole thing. Which one's that?
All right.
You fucking whore Catholics.
I kid you not. Like, that was how I was raised. Like,
Which denomination is that?
Was that
independent Baptist.
So like,
Yeah, I was
like Steve Anderson brand of independent Baptists.
yeah, that's how I grew up. I grew up like Steve Anderson, Matt Powell.
Oh
That.
dear. Would that be like those guys I've been arguing with on Twitter lately?
Yeah, they call themselves the new independent Baptist. movement or whatever it is.
The ones
Independent
saying-
Fundamental Baptist or
So
whatever.
when you
that-
found
that-
out
that-
how
Kid diddling that was going on in the old sect.
Now, but hear me out on this, man. There's nothing new about that. That's the same old thing, same old story, same old song and dance. I grew up with that all my life. Like, if they're trying to say that's new, that's insane. Like, that's always been the platform of the Independent Baptist Church. Like, everything they're saying now is what they've always been saying.
Yeah, but it's new because they're trying to distinguish themselves from the last Independent Baptist Church because of kid diddling in the old one.
Perhaps, but I mean, the doctrine is the same.
Yeah, it's the same exact thing. It's a new name because of the.
Here's a little thing, everyone. Godless Iron's in the chat. He says, anyone remember the story from the Bible where they convince a whole tribe of people to become Jews, circumcise them, and then that night, when the tribe is in pain, they all.
Godless
Iron saying, like, does anyone remember that passage?
I do not.
Shit, I forgot we were live.
No, not for them.
That would not. If I read that,
That's
in
a
the
real
Bible, it would
story?
not at all surprise me.
What's the
Holy
story
shit.
again? I missed it.
Genesis 34, he says. Hang on.
Yeah, the Israelites convince a tribe to get circumcised, and then that night when they're in pain, they sneak in and slaughter them all. Lovely.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. That's a whole nother level of freaking like military.
I could
We're gonna cut their dicks off and then we'll fucking kill them in the night. That's
like you haven't already fucking fucked them up enough as it is. You already made a chip cut the fucking.
Oh, yeah, there
skin
it
off
is.
the wiener off.
They just changed their mind. They're like, no, we're not letting.
Do you want me to tell you the thing?
hell yeah. Let's just add insult to injury.
I'm not going to start. I'm not going to start from the beginning. It's quite long. All the men who went out of the city gate agreed. Insert Bible names, and every male in the city was circumcised. 3 days later, while all of them were still in pain, two of Jacob's sons, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, took their swords and attacked the unsuspecting city, killing every male.
Oh,
But they took the females. But only for indentured servitude. There was no naughtiness going on.
Oh,
No,
no, yeah,
of course
yeah.
not.
They did seize the ladies. That is explicitly stated in the passage.
Now, yeah, I was going to ask, what's the context before and after? Like, why did they convince them to join them, then fucking murder them all in the middle of the night? They had to have a reason behind it, right? You'd think.
Something to do with somebody's daughter. Something to do with
Someone's
somebody's
daughter? Okay.
she was
Someone's
a
property. She was property. She was chattel. Women didn't have any.
our channel.
That's a lovely story. Oh, it's because one of them had sex with Dina. Well, that seems
there
like
you
a
go.
fucking.
That's fair enough. You know, one of
That's
them
a fair solution. One of you fucked one chick, so you all die. You know.
Yeah, one of you had sex with my daughter, so we kill everyone in the city, of course. Well, no, every male.
Let's don't cheapen it. Let's don't fucking fringe it up. Let's make them cut their dicks off and then kill them.
Yeah.
Well, it's just like every redneck. It's like, hey, one guy touched my daughter. You're all gonna fucking die.
You know, there's kind of adding injury to injury there.
Were they like were they ultra feminists or something? Did they all have to pay for one man's crime? All men had to?
No, because they took all the
Yeah,
they
I
took all
was
the livestock / women afterwards.
oh.
Yeah, no, they were fucking all the girls afterwards. So
it was
there's no
just a
feminism here.
It was literally just a property grab. That's all it was. There was no other reason. I mean, that was just an excuse. It was a property grab, plain and simple.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It was a
it's like
property
that thing that happened. It's like that thing that happened in Texas, man. Dude was throwing the fucking mattress in the fucking community goddamn dumpster. Somebody's got to get shot. That's how it rolls. Yeah, sometimes you just gotta do crazy shit if it can make your neighbors respect you more. I guess.
That's what you got to do. You just gotta. It's like when my neighbor didn't laugh at one of my jokes, I went round and threw his dog in the quarry.
Kick that motherfucker right in.
Right. That's what you do.
Fair game, bitch. You don't laugh at my jokes, I'll kick you in the fucking quarry.
Yep.
It seems like I think it was just a property grab, but I mean, maybe a bit of an overreaction, just a little bit. But I think that what they did, I mean, like I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that happened. I mean, like I think that some of the Bible probably is true history of the Jewish tribes, you know, and like they're probably, you know, their God told them to do it, so it's just justification for them. But I mean, I think some of the history is probably accurate, you know.
I consider it like an alternate history fantasy novel. You know, there's some real history in there. There's some stuff that really happened, but there's this whole supernatural angle that they've added in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, it's like it's funny because like I wish we had all of the texts from all the other tribes. You know what I mean? Like all the other gods, all the other stuff, so that we could compare notes.
No, they couldn't write them because they were all circumcised.
They write it with their dicks or something?
Well, they could have done after. Anyway.
I'm asking GI if he wants a link. He's got a bunch of cool stories.
I'll tell you a story. Charlie Chaplin once entered a Charlie Chaplin lookalike contest and came third. Now, that's a story.
I've heard that. I have heard that. How do you get third in your own fucking contest? But you gotta add context. He was much older at that time. Like I think he was probably like in his 60s or some shit when he like joined the contest. It was like 1977.
I think it's better if you don't add the context.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, like, let's figure out why he didn't win. You know, like, how does the guy who literally is fucking Charlie Chaplin get third place?
Yeah, I think since we're talking about stories here, I see this guy in the chat who says Abraham personally circumcised around 30,000 people in one day.
He'd have to be pretty quick at circumcision. Yeah, he'd have to just be kind of done, you know.
He's very busy.
I should go to med school. Holy shit!
It's like the Eddie Izzard joke where it's like you killed like 2 million people. You must have a very busy schedule. You know what I mean? Like, what's your day look like? You know, like you get up in the morning, penis cut, lunch.
Right.
Penis cut, afternoon tea.
Yeah, that brings up a question
of sandwich fillings
with 30,000.
Isn't that from that
30,000
comedian Eddie Izzard or what's his name?
Eddie Izzard.
Yeah,
I like that guy.
He's hilarious.
But I mean, 30,000 has to be like a record for dicks touched in a day. I mean, like seriously,
not for me, dude. That's just my normal Tuesday.
Somehow I doubt that. I'm going to need to see some sort of a peer-reviewed study. Need some evidence to back that extraordinary claim.
He come around and show you and add to the number while he's at it.
Yeah, hey, look, I'm all for Duke coming.
How do you know 30,000 people?
Look at that beard.
Just run through town. Just grab.
Okay.
He is a Florida man. I mean,
yes, he is in Florida. No one would hold it against you. Florida man cuts off 30,000, circumcises 30,000 people.
In one day.
Another day in Florida.
That sounds like a headline that I could believe.
that actually wouldn't be a surprising headline coming out of Florida.
I mean,
Yeah.
think about
Let's be honest. He was likely delegating. He was delegating.
Yeah, exactly. I was saying, think of the tactical fucking problems you would encounter trying to circumcise 30,000 fucking people in one day. That's a lot of cutting and snipping, man.
Need some stuff.
You'd have to be running through there.
Or did you
chop
just
shop.
circumcise them with your teeth?
Well,
That's
only on Saturday.
That's a lot of
On
penises.
Saturday.
That's a lot of penises in your mouth for one day,
That's your
man.
night out.
Hey,
All
man.
right, so you'd have to get 20.8 penises a minute.
Break it down for us, brother. Break it down for us, man.
So
you have
I'm
to line
finding
'em
that
up.
story to be unlikely.
You have to line them up.
Yeah, but 20. I mean, that's what? That's one every 3 seconds. A little
Get
over.
your ass against the wall.
Yeah, like
Line them up. Line them up. Get a sword and run along the line.
I guess if you held it taunt, and then you could just go down a line just chopping.
You got a Walking Dead style.
I mean, some people probably got a little extra circumcision that day.
Size difference is going to be a significant concern here.
Yeah.
Yeah, are we going to be seeing you in any headlines? Are you making history?
I'm
Is that
just- I'm-
we can,
on with the birds?
yeah, Duke, get out of there, buddy. They're coming for you.
fuck, man. He's made me spit my cigarette out of my mouth. Thanks, guys. The birds.
Yeah.
So
It's because of the circumcision line. The birds have
so
come
we're
down
all-
for the
well-
pickings.
So are we all in? Are we all in agreement then that the new nickname for mouth is Jewish guillotine?
Yes.
Uh,
All right, the Jewish guillotine. The bird does not agree. That bird is pissed off. What'd you do to that bird?
Just shoot the
I
bird.
don't know, man. I'm just sitting on my porch. I'm gonna get my shotgun. I'm sorry.
Have you thrown rocks at it or something? Is it like warning the rest of the neighborhood, like that you're in the neighborhood or something?
Yeah,
it's
how
that
does-
circumcision man.
I don't speak bird.
I can't decide whether I'm with the bird or against the bird because on one hand it's like, hey, stop this guy from doing circumcisions with his fucking teeth, and the other side is just like, please just shut up, bird.
I feel like the bird is now a part of our group. Could we get him added to the list on Twitter?
Yeah, yeah.
I wonder if we're going to see that.
We're gonna get some super chats.
Oh,
God damn it.
Add the bird on Twitter. See if he wants
Yeah.
to join in.
Duke, you need to make a parody account. Duke's bird.
That's going to happen now.
Just,
I will insta follow that.
oh
Account.
yeah, I'll follow that. And every 2 seconds, just post "ka."
Mr. Mole,
Yeah.
the secular wants to introduce everyone because got no idea who everyone is.
Okay.
I'm
all
a
right.
nobody.
Why don't everybody introduce themselves? I don't like to work. Why are you trying to make me do stuff?
All right. The
How
circumcision
unfair.
first.
Unsubscribed. No, I go. Okay. I don't know how to say Avatar. How you pronounce? Is it Nashu?
Wow, that yes, Avatar of Khonshu.
Khonshu. Okay. All right. Well, we
Bless
got him. Bless you. You're did someone sneeze? We got.
Yeah,
We got
can't you? That's I thought somebody had sneezed.
Khonshu.
Yeah, Avatar of Khonshu.
Khonshu.
Chew.
Khonshu. That's the female version of circumcision. The Khonshu. All right, and then we got
Who
Duke,
else we got?
the loudmouth bonanza, and his
Oh,
bird.
okay.
Bird.
Thank you.
And we got Evan, or the faithless Southerner. We got Red, Red Venture. We got the Bible Belt Atheist, so I don't think he said a word. And we
He
got
won't.
me, of course. Would you like to
And
talk
Badger.
PBA? I said
Hey.
Badger.
You skipped Badger.
I did not.
He's not important.
I'll say myself then. Hello, I'm a tempered badger. I talk about things on the internet.
Yeah, he had his head below ground. I couldn't see him.
While holding a dildo.
And he's a dildo enthusiast.
Beer bottle.
He's a dildo enthusiast.
Oh boy.
Hey,
Oh, my.
just a quick question though. Since we're kind of shit talking here for a second, is anyone planning on making any new content?
I'm sure.
No, I don't do that.
Never ever again. As a matter of fact, this is my last stream ever.
Oh shit.
Oh,
Not streaming ever again.
oh,
See,
I'm
I'd have to make some content.
Do you mean
first
like-
to make new
You
content?
mean like, yeah?
Right.
You mean like, is anybody got anything in the works? Do you mean?
yeah, just
Yes.
anything.
Have you just been going around everyone's channels and looking sort of you haven't made anything in a while?
You fucking suck.
No, I don't have that kind of time on my hands.
Next.
That's the problem. That's why I haven't done a video for a few weeks.
Right.
I do have a few
I
things
just
planned,
uploaded
but
one that was
nice.
shit talking the flat Earth.
Oh dear.
Yep.
No, I'll have content soon. I mean, I've got a lot of groundwork done, so hopefully over the next few weeks, you'll see the first few videos from me.
Nice.
Yeah, but then you'll over edit them.
Oh yeah, no. Once I commit to a project, I've spent all this money already, so
Right.
I was really hoping to have like a live chat with that what's he called guy?
Fred Gwynn.
Evolution _false.
Oh, Doug Dawkins?
Oh God, yeah, that one guy who was.
But he hasn't got back to me. Actually,
no,
let me
he hasn't
just
got
see
back
if
to me as well. He
Let me
added
just see
me.
if he's emailed me.
He added me and sent me an initial email, and he hasn't responded yet.
Let me just see if he's emailed me. I'm gonna look in my comp mails.
I was hoping he would join us this morning. Like, I thought he might pop in or something. Who knows? It's still early. He might.
Yeah.
You never know. Or she. We don't even know if it's a male or a female.
Yeah,
Did you just assume their
That's
gender?
I did.
No emails. If he does, then are we poking him saying, we having this chat then, chap?
You know what? I don't think I can do this live stream anymore, and we'll just assume someone's gender.
Yeah. Oh, all right. See you later. Have a
Later.
nice day.
He
Take it easy, bud.
He does call himself Fred.
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 I've known a lot of girls named Fred. You take that back.
Not every visit with them was pleasant.
Yeah.
I believe there's an entire Frank Zappa song written around that premise.
I'm confused because BBA's been in here, and I'm not sure if he's alive. I mean,
Can we get a welfare check on
Every-
BBA, please?
every
Welfare check.
stream that I join, BBA joins in and says nothing.
Right.
It's my fault, always.
It's
It's your fault. What do you like? Hold him down or something?
I have no idea, but it's always my fault.
Always circumcises him.
Yeah.
It's probably his microphone's probably broken and nobody's told him.
No. This is
He's
an
been
ongoing
talking all this
problem.
time, but we can't hear him.
Nah, I don't think so.
I think we're talking about this Bible guy, right?
Bible Belt atheist.
Jesus.
This Bible guy.
I don't know him.
Nobody knows him. He doesn't talk.
He's watching us filthy heathens shit talk.
He's got like a really snazzy avatar though, so he keeps getting invited to the live chats.
Well, he talked on his channel. I mean, his
But then he
content.
tries to talk. Then he tries to talk, and we're all talking.
All right, everyone quiet. All right, you there?
No,
I'm
shit.
here. There he is.
His fingers are still alive. Good enough. Moving on.
All right, he's here. He's alive.
He snapped his fingers to smite us.
Okay.
I'm here.
We're gonna die in 5 seconds.
Oh no! What's gonna happen?
If one of us did die in 5 seconds, that would be nuts. One of us kill over. Could happen. You never know, man.
Views would be going up.
You could have.
Look, Evans is already doing it. Good job.
I've risen. Worship me as God.
Oh, the Lord and Savior.
Praise Jesus.
Actually,
All right,
I could see you doing a damn good cosplay as Jesus.
All right, here's a question for you, Mr. Mole.
Okay.
If I was to send a message, like an email or a tweet or a private message or all of the above, in fact, to this Fred whatever guy, saying, would you like to come on a live stream with me and Mr. Mole at this specific time, and then we'd plan a time when we could both be there and see if he appears. And if not, we'll just have a chat about something else.
Yeah, we can do that if you want.
Only if I'm allowed to eat popcorn while watching.
We can chat with Fred.
Just make sure you have your script for the presupposition list argument memorized in advance.
Well, my script is just but I don't presuppose that.
You mean with their presuppositions, not ours, right?
Right. That's what I mean. Like he's gonna if he's who I think he is, he's gonna come into the conversation and try to run the conversation from a presuppositionalist standpoint. So what he's gonna do, he's gonna try to manufacture control of the conversation from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So
I have to ask. I left an hour after that stream started. Did he stay?
Oh, he kept coming back in the
so.
chat.
Oh,
I don't know if he like just
He
popped
kept
back in
coming
from
back in the
time to
chat,
time.
and as soon as he said anything, doe-eyed atheist would squish him.
nice.
We're all taking turns in chat.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like he'd appear, say something.
well, it wasn't just Doe-eyed. Like I think Red squashed him a couple of times. There was, like,
I
multiple-
think Staggerson might have squashed him once or twice too.
I think I
Staggerson lit his ass up straight from the fucking stream. Like Staggerson lit
one of
him,
these.
and it was beautiful.
I have one of these squashing spanners, but I don't know how to do it. But every time I saw him, the text would appear, and then within like half a second, it would go removed by doe-eyed atheist.
Well, here's what was funny. I've thought about just like appearing in a chat and then just like shit talking atheists, just because my account name is Avatar of Khonshu, and Khonshu was she was the Egyptian moon god. So I wanted to come in and just be like, oh, you fucking atheists, you don't believe me?
That's more or less what I do every time I show up to one of Nightmare Fuel streams. Every time I go to one of Nightmare Fuel streams, I'm like, Jesus is Lord. Like I just talk shit.
You make the rounds with him.
I had a guy shouting that as I was walking past with a friend of mine.
Reese and I are cool as shit, dude. Reese and I are cool as shit.
We don't get so many street preachers around England, but we did this one time. We were walking through town, and he's just there with his Bible, proclaiming. So then we were just muttering to ourselves as we walked past, and a friend just goes, "Jesus Christ!" as we got near him. And the guy lowers his Bible, looks at us, and goes, "Jesus Christ is Lord."
Well, my buddy, he's a real shit lord. He walks like he knows that like there's a few blacks in the school who just hate his guts, so he walks around and he goes,
"Oh dear,
Jesus Christ is my nigga."
Oh dear. Does he do the whole rap?
Yes, he does. He sings it when he's walking the class. He gets a couple looks and he just doesn't care.
Jesus rap.
I don't want to get into that Jesus rap.
No.
Street preachers. There's an eccentricity.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
This one time I was in Loris, South Carolina. I was still a hardcore like Baptist, and this Jehovah's Witness tried to hand me this like Jehovah's Witness preacher tried to hand me like some kind of literature, and I was like, no, thank you. And I went to walk off, and he started like following me and screaming at me, like, "You don't want to hear about the Lord? You don't want to hear about the Lord?" And I turned around and I took it from him. And I looked at it and I said, "No, I don't subscribe to cults." And I handed it back and left. And the irony of that statement is not lost on me. Because at the time period, I was like, "No, you're insane." But then, like, back, I'm like, I was insane too. Like,
there are some people actually. Now I think about it, there's these two sort of elderly ladies who stand on the corner outside the library with a little Watchtower Society stall and hand out pamphlets.
Yeah, usually they're pretty cool, nice about it. They just set up their little stand and they sit there and they wave at people whenever they go by, and they'll hand out pamphlets if they can. But I like the fire and brimstone. Like we've got this guy that I live in a very small town, and so we've got a town square that surrounds the courthouse, and like he's out there almost every day screaming at the cars that go by and anybody that'll actually stop and see the spectacle, like streaming one day.
Are they used to it though? I mean, if it's small
yeah,
town,
like that's
probably
like
an
he's
everyday
just
scene, right?
yeah, it's an everyday thing. It's like if he's not there, we start. Well, is he sick? Is something wrong? Like he's just this old dude with a Bible that screams on the corner, like judgment is coming. And,
Like when you say small town, like how small do you mean? Like 10,000 people? Small?
No, in my town, in my county, there's 3,500 people. In the town, there's around 1,000 in the city limits, roughly 900 to 1,000. So it's a really everybody knows everybody.
Dude, in Myrtle Beach, there was a guy that took like a panel truck, and he like painted it with like a nun and like a priest, and he painted like a river of blood, and he put river of baby's blood, and he put like, I kid you not, he put like abortionist be damned, like it's like whole mural that ran from one side of the truck to the other.
God damn.
This is huge anti-abortion thing. And he would just drive that truck around all day long for everybody there.
Yeah, we've got like on my Twitter, my pinned tweet is a local car that rides around the turn or burn, and they've like the entire car is just plastered with extremely offensive Christian literature. And
I saw that.
There's also a church up the street that I wish they've toned down their signage recently. But whenever they first opened up, they had like the most offensive church signs that you could ever like the little, normally people put like Bible verses or cute little inspirational sayings. And like theirs, like the first one was, "You think it's hot here." And it was like turn or burn and repent or be tortured forever. And like I'm talking about the most offensive, like, gay should be stoned, like, holy crap, people can say this?
There's one of those in Myrtle Beach too. It was so funny because they had like this like whole like anti-homosexual rant on their church sign, and somebody snuck over there in the night and like changed all the letters out and turned it into like, "I like to suck dicks."
There was also one that I found to be just extremely offensive is somebody that's a gentle parent. There was on the way to Arkansas on the interstate, there was one that was something like, "Unless you beat their kids, they'll turn out Satanists," like a big billboard, like the whole, I could never get a picture of it because I was always driving. But it was something, it was like, "Punish your children for their misdeeds, spare the rod, spoil the child," or they'll be, they'll fall into the arms of Satan or something like that. There was a series of these that was, like abortion is murder, beat your children, and Jesus loves you. And I was like, somebody needs to work on your advertising campaign.
More than a cracked skull and some broken ribs.
Well, here's the funny thing: is like you say somebody needs to work in their advertising, but they're like literally advertising to the choir.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's not even like that's, if you're in that part of the world, that's not that strange. Like 90% of the people that ride past that are like, "Yeah, that makes sense."
Well, I reconverted after that. I mean, it made sense.
Yeah. Here's a question for you. If they wanted me to pronounce it Arkansas, why did they spell it Arkansas?
Have you ever been to Arkansas?
Yeah, that's a great point.
It's better to see it.
If you went to Arkansas, you'd understand.
You would, totally.
You'd be like, "Oh, fuck, I get it now."
Arkansas, Shear, England. Yeah, he's been there.
Look, I wasn't assuming where he was from.
I grew up in Texas. We used to laugh at Arkansas.
Oh no, Arkansas is patently the worst. Like I thought Alabama was bad, and then I spent a month in Arkansas working. And I was like, well, I'm ready to go home. It's actually not very racist here.
Well, I told you that the state of Utah pushes religion pretty heavily. I was in the Twitter group, and I told you guys about the teacher who failed kids if they didn't argue for the existence of God.
Praise Jesus.
Praise Jesus.
Yep.
I
So,
can praise Jesus for an A. Fuck it.
well,
I would totally I'd have sex with Jesus for even less. So
You do it for free. What do you mean less?
yeah, I would totally do it for free.
We
He's
know
a hot guy, I know.
if he circumcises people for free, what makes you think he won't fuck Jesus?
That's a good point. At some point, I'm thinking that I might try to get like a live stream idea going where I have conversations with people from different religious denominations. And one thing that I would really like to do is a very close friend of mine is gay. Now, I would like to get one of these homosexuals or spawn of Satan people on and just put him on with a friend and let them have a chat, and then at the end of it, him say, "Oh, I'm gay, by the way."
I bet you could get Matt Powell roped in. He's a sucker for exposure.
I don't really have too many live streaming ideas. I just like to come on to Hangouts and just bullshit.
I was around his house last week, and he was telling me about how
To Matt Powell's house? Really?
That's
not
really
Matt
weird.
Powell's house. No, my friend's house. I go around his house, and he tells me every time I go around, he's either just uninstalled or reinstalled Grindr.
It's pretty good.
And he tells me in great detail why
Matt Powell?
this time
I'm
he's
still
uninstalled
confused.
it or reinstalled it. Yes, Matt Powell. I'm talking about Matt Powell on Grindr.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, he probably has a secret life. I wouldn't be surprised at
Yeah,
all.
it's only a year or two before he gets caught with a dick in his mouth in a bathroom somewhere.
He's
sure.
a bit of a pretty boy.
In a bathroom stall.
Yeah, it's always the hardcore anti-fucking homosexuals that end up being like the.
What was the really
The
big
glory-
dude?
The glory
gets
for
caught for that.
Jesus' whole.
The televangelist.
I know who you're talking about. What the fuck was his name?
Yeah, just listen to a book about him.
Someone in chat help us. I know it's on the tip of my tongue too. Fuck, I can't even think of it right now. Of course, I wouldn't be able to.
I never do live streams. I always forget we have a chat. When you guys say it's like, oh, we have a chat, I'm like, oh shit.
Miss Snarky said, "Are we calling that Matt guy?" Oh yeah, Ted Haggard. That's it.
Twink.
Yes, we are. He is a twink.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what
absolutely.
that means. I know it's a gay term. I just don't know what it means.
He is a bit of a pretty boy.
It's a Twinkie gay.
Right.
He does have
Let me
a
get my wife in here.
So twinks are gay guys that are really effeminate and really like
Flamboyant.
Okay.
flamboyant, and they're typically bottoms, right?
Yeah,
So you would have a bear or a top that would be a more masculine gay dude,
Yeah.
and the twink would be like a bottom that was more effeminate.
Yeah.
Well,
He
I
does
just-
have
that was
he does
right.
have a face that looks like it. He does have a face that looks like it should be sticky.
Yeah.
No, Matt Powell would totally be a twink. That guy's a catcher. He's not a pitcher. He's not pitching from the fucking rough, dude. That guy's fucking catching all day long.
I'll tell you what.
Probably right.
You know what?
I will show my friend. I will show my friend a picture of Matt Powell and tell you what he thinks. I'll try and record this conversation.
We need to expand the the survey to more than just one gay guy. I mean, we can't go on one gay guy's opinion because that's totally what it'd be. We need a multitude of
Yeah,
gay men.
we need more gay guys.
We
As
need
of
more
right
gay
now-
guys.
As of right now, you've got at least 2 gay guys. Well, if you turn it over to him, then there's me. So I'm telling you right now, from experience, Matt Powell catches.
Okay.
Yeah, but would you
Right,
call
oh, yeah,
Matt Powell an
definitely.
attractive young man?
That's what.
He's too young for me.
Interesting though.
Would that was going to be my next question? Would you?
It's interesting though because my friend,
He's 22.
my close friend who's quite gay, he used to work with a Muslim guy. That was a series of quite interesting conversations.
Joan in the chat asked, are there any Protestant churches in the U.S. that do baby baptisms? I have no idea.
Yes.
Does
No.
anybody have any idea?
Yeah.
Are there?
There are in the
Which
UK.
ones? Which ones?
Oh
Where?
god. I know that.
Traditionally, the Protestant churches I know about typically wait to have baptism until what they would consider the age of consent, like the age of the ability to accept Jesus as a savior, right?
Mhm.
So, like in most of the Protestant religions that I've come across, there's the idea that you can't accept Jesus until you're able to understand what the complications or the implications of accepting Jesus are. And so before that, implications is what I meant.
No, I think
You can't-
complications is better.
Yeah, well, they both work. But
They're
the
both
Protestant religions that I understand, the ones I grew up in and around, like there's an age of consent is not the right word. I'm trying to think of the right word. Age of accountability, right? So there's an idea that before a certain age, you're not accountable for your actions. So after that, you are, and so they try to gauge it by that.
I know that we have a church a few miles out that kind of does that kind of stuff.
Now, I need to know too. Does she mean strictly Protestant, or does she mean Protestant is in the not Catholic? Because that's technically what it means.
Yeah, 'cause if it's not Catholic, because like the ARP church.
Anything that isn't Catholic is technically Protestant.
Yeah, and then that's what I was saying, because the Presbyterians do baby baptisms, the Associated Reform, the ARP church.
Okay.
And I believe that some sects of the Methodist Church do as well. I don't think it's as. I think it's.
Well, it's hard to say because, like, I imagine that like the baptism thing is the same as the rapture thing. You know what I mean? Like, are people raptured out? Are they raptured pre-trib, mid-trib, post-trib? I mean, the entire Christian religion is a fucking muddy water of bullshit that there's no telling. Like, they all have different beliefs and they're all preaching different things. But for the most part, at least in the Baptist religion, like, as far as I know.
Yeah, the Baptists
religion.
do baptism whenever you're ready, after you've accepted Jesus as your Lord and Savior. The Presbyterians, I know, at least the Associated Reformed Presbyterians, RP Church, do infant baptism. They don't do it as hardcore. They don't like dunk the baby 3 times and hold it under the water and all that. They do like the Catholic thing where they sprinkle.
Like they sprinkle, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, do Anglicans do baby baptisms? I would assume they would, because they're like the closest to Catholics, right?
I have a question for you. In the Church of England, there is a thing known as a christening service. Is that the same in over there?
Yeah, they do christenings even in Baptist churches.
Yeah.
Here.
Is that where they get their Christian name?
It's essentially like a baptism, but it's not exactly a baptism.
Yeah,
I want to see your average Baptist would call it a dedication.
Yeah. But it's
Yeah,
the same
wouldn't,
thing.
wouldn't it be like you're announcing the baby to the Lord or something, or the
Yeah.
Something
you know,
like that,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, we
hey,
call
Lord,
it a
check out this
dedication.
baby. Ooh.
Yeah, I went to one a little while ago for some friends of mine's daughter.
Yeah,
Because none of
it's-
them, they're not particularly religious, but the parents are. So they just thought, yeah, well, whatever, we'll do it. We'll have a nice little family gathering out of it.
Right. I mean, do you think that a majority of people that still attend church do it just out of custom, or do you think that there's? I mean, do you think a majority of them are? I mean, we deal with the internet nuts. I mean, they're hardcore religious. Like we're hardcore atheists. I mean, we're like the the one percenters kind of. But like normal people, like in everyday society, like do you think that they are as religious as the people on the internet claim them to be?
No, but I would say no, but I would say that the average person is religious. I would say that like when you look at somebody that says they're Christian, they may not adhere wholeheartedly to the text, but they still believe, right? So like from what I know, people I've dealt with, like the average person that says they're Christian does believe in Jesus. They do believe in the Bible. They believe those things, but they don't necessarily practice the religion in the way that
a more vague idea of it than a specific following of all the text.
So I can only speak to my personal experience with the religious people in my town and those that I've met otherwise. And I would say I was actually surprised whenever I got into this sort of activist mode versus, because there for a very long time I was just very closed off about my spirituality. That was just if it came up, I shut the conversation down. I'd just tell people that that's personal and move on. But whenever I kind of came out as an activist, I was actually surprised at the amount of depth in the conversations that I had with people who did not believe to be as ardent of believers as I'd originally anticipated. And so my experience is that it's kind of stratified. You know, you've got maybe like 10% of the people who like know their stuff, like they've put thought into it and they've come to different conclusions, but they've at least thought about some of the arguments. And then you've got a whole swath of people in the middle that like they follow it because that's what granddad did and what mom did, and they believe it, but they've never really questioned it. They don't go into any like depth. It's just like, and if it comes up, they don't want to talk about it. Like I don't, I'm happy in the little world. It's how they structure their lives. And then at the very bottom, you've got the just the general players in general, just like the guys that they're cultural, but they go out, they drink every weekend, they party, they do whatever they want to, but they're still going to go to church every once in a while and call Christian. But I'd say that the majority of people kind of fit somewhere in the middle.
Right. But even if you ask those lower tier guys, if you went to those lower tier guys and said,
lower tier
God, well, I would say
I just thought it was funny the way you worded it. It's okay though. Go ahead.
All right, if you went to those lower tier guys and you said, "Do you believe that Jesus was God?" they would say yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
and they believe that. So like it's a weird conundrum. Like they're more or less processed to believe what they believe. But
well, I don't. Here I'm gonna actually dissent with that a little bit.
Okay.
I would say that they're. Let me see if I can formulate this properly. I'd say that actions inform true beliefs better than lip service does. And so if they actually believed in a very real sense, then they would do better. They would act better. What I've found is people that are on that strata, if you really press them, they turn into like easy believism Christians. Like, well, yeah, Jesus existed, but everybody can go to heaven, and that just happened a long time ago. Like, yeah, he died on the cross for our sins, but whenever they're really pressed.
Yeah, but see, that's not what I've run into. What I've run into is the once saved, always saved Christian that thinks that they can do whatever they want, but because they said a prayer when they were younger, they're saved, right? Mm-hmm. So I think there's an argument to be made for both your argument and my argument. It's just a different demographic.
I think, and we got to think about the cultural differences too between the Deep South and where I live too. I'm just asking, like, in the sense of where you live, like around here, I would say that most people would probably say they're Christian, but they live their lives no different than I do. I mean, they fucking go out and party, they watch whatever they want on television. They don't fucking go to church. That's what I meant. Like, how many people do you think are actually religious, or just they're just religious because their parents were religious, that kind of thing,
it's a lot higher here. I mean, there are a lot of people that at least attempt to walk it rather than just talk it.
Right.
It's
I mean, there
I
are
would say
some here.
80% of the people here.
Particularly in the younger generations, it's much more the other way. In over here, there's older generations kind of, I go to church, but that's about the extent of it. And younger generations don't even do that.
See, now that's entirely not the case where I'm at. Like where I'm at, like you've got young ladies that have like Jesus stickers across the back of their car, and they're like practically married to Jesus.
Yeah.
And, you know what I mean? Like dudes the same way. Like it is I just spent an evening night before last talking with a guy I work with who was raised Christian. He was brought up in a Christian school, and then he got out of school and he went to college, and he started studying to be a nurse, and all of a sudden nothing made sense to him anymore. So he backed off of it. You know what I mean? It's an indoctrination thing, in the sense that even if you're looking at somebody that's saying, like, to me, it's a weird conundrum, because in the South, at least with the Baptist religion and with some of the other Protestant religions, they have that caveat of you said the prayer, you believed in your heart, so no matter what, you're always saved. And so it kind of gives them license to behave any way they want because they're forgiven no matter what. So it gives them license to kind of go crazy. And I'm talking from personal experience too, because I went through that. I went through that, just being a part of that thing. And it's not that there wasn't guilt there, but it still made sense. And so I think there's a very big portion of people who just think it's true and they believe it. They behave the way they behave because they're told that no matter what they do, for the most part, they're still saved.
Okay. Well, I'm an outsider looking in. I've never really been religious, so I don't know. I don't know what a typical religious. I mean, I suppose that there might be more around me than I know of, but I don't know. The people I meet on a daily basis, I mean, there are some that are religious, and I know some that are really super. Like my ex-girlfriend is super religious, but for the most part, I would say, I mean, I think people are just afraid to admit they're atheists almost more than anything. Like, I mean, how many people do you think truly believe? Like, if you
a lot.
Well, no,
I don't know.
Yes.
Okay.
Like, is it a fear thing though? Or are they just believing because it's the safe bet, so to speak?
I don't know, but based on the polling data, the only religious group that's really grown is the fundamentalists. In different religions, and that actually correlates pretty heavily to extrinsic religiosity. So for the social aspect, kind of stuff, and so more of it's there for them and what it gives them for socially and stuff like that. It seems is why it's grown.
Here's a little story that kind of sums up, at least in my area of the UK, a lot of the attitude towards organized religion. I was going to a martial arts club for many years, and one of the instructors kind of found religion at some point, and started going to church regularly. He'd always have a cross around his neck when we were training and all that kind of stuff. And everyone else in the place sort of They didn't want to upset him because he was a really nice guy. He's really friendly and very helpful. But they all just kind of rolled their eyes a little bit secretly, like, oh, we're going to have to hear about Jesus a few times now.
Yeah, see, that's what I get too most of the time. Like, there's a few like outliers that, I mean, but for the most part, I would say people around here, as a rule, pretty much live their life as if there's no God. I don't know. I mean, I could just be not seeing it. Maybe I don't pay attention. Maybe it's more prevalent in my society than I think. But I don't know. As a rule, I would say most people really don't know. They're kind of wishy-washy about it at the best.
I would say it's a regional thing because where I'm at, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people.
Like, these people are sold out for Christ where I'm at. Like, just sold out for it.
There's some people here too that are. I mean, that's pretty par for the course in America. I think, unfortunately.
Yeah, but I think it's a little thicker. Like where I'm at, it's a little bit thicker than that. It's like there's like a lot higher demographic of people that are just flat out straight up Christian, and they believe that over they believe anything else. So I think it's a demographic thing. I would say it was like it just depends on where you're at. You know what I mean? Like religiosity changes when you change demographics.
True.
Yeah.
And who was it? Was it Avatar that was saying? Who was talking about it was Red that was talking about the fundamentalists are the only churches that are growing. Now, do you think that's because they're working at growing their numbers, that they're actively pursuing that? Because most churches really don't actively, they're not really door knockers anymore, so to speak. I mean, there's Jehovah's Witnesses, yes, some Mormons, yes, but a large number of them are like the independent Baptist, I would say, right?
Well,
no, I would say for the fundamentalists, it has more to do with the fact that they're breeding at a higher level and they indoctrinate at a more aggressive level. You know,
they're very aggressive.
They are super aggressive with their kids. Like if you get to the Baptists, even the Southern Baptists, like if you get to any Baptist, anybody that calls themselves Baptist, they are indoctrinating at a level that is like you will toe the line or you will not be accepted, right? And it's not just with your family; it's with everybody in your peer group. Like you have to absolutely toe that line. And so when you look at like the Baptists, they're growing because they're forcing growth. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, part of it is the larger families and stuff, and the other part is a lot for motivations other than belief in the religion. If you buy into the whole IEQ distinction in psychology, so
expound on that.
Well, so there's in religious psychology, there's intrinsic and extrinsic religiosity. So intrinsic religiosity is the true believers that believe in the Father. In the belief itself is the end goal of it. So it means where an extrinsic believer is someone who holds that religion is a means to an end kind of thing, even if they don't admit it to themselves kind of thing, but it's the means to an end. So they go to church because it's socially there for what they get out of the social hierarchies and stuff like that, and all that stuff. So they're there for that. They're there for their social stuff. And
so one's in it for the religion, and the other one's in it for what they get out of the religion.
Well, I would also say that you can add on to that the increasing groupishness of humanity as a whole, and I think that you could trace that back to the interconnectedness, the social media, the things like that. But there's a intense need to be in a group. And the evangelical fundamentalists offer a better group structure than something that's more intrinsically based, and a more liberal denomination.
I think
it's just part of a group, but they need to be a part of a group. It's an intrinsic part of human nature, period. You know what I mean? Like that's just part of our makeup.
No. It seems to me that where we're defining our groups more clearly these days. You know, the battle lines are drawn, especially what you can see with the increasing polarization in politics.
Yeah.
You know, and so the fundamentalist denominations offer that sort of hardcore us against them, whereas the more liberal denominations don't.
Okay.
That's a problem with anyone who has any kind of dissenting opinion.
I would grant you that they offer it, but I would also impose that they enforce it.
It's practically the same thing.
Well, offering and enforcing are two different things. Like if
That's
you
true,
can
but
offer,
the way they do it is
you can offer from the outside. You can have somebody like the guy that tried to infiltrate the Westboro Baptist Church to expose them, and they ended up becoming a member. Right? They were offering that to him, but the kids that were brought up in the Westboro Baptist Church weren't offered anything. They were imposed. Right? So there's a distinct difference there. Like there's the kids that are getting brought up that way and they're being taught that way, and then there's people that have, for whatever reason, come across that mindset and changed to it because
it's imposed. It's imposed, but it's framed as being offered in the way of, well, you could always not do this, but you'll burn in hell for all eternity.
Right, but
it's framed as an offer when it's really an imposition.
That's my point. Is that like coming from having grown up in that, it wasn't offered at all. Like, don't get me wrong. Coming up independent Baptist, I wasn't offered anything.
Yeah, but hold on.
I was told
if you thought that your child was going to burn in hell forever if you did not teach them properly, what would you do? You know, if that was a sincere belief that you.
And the parents are as indoctrinated as they're trying to make the children.
Yeah, I mean, it's a generational thing, but
that's not the argument. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that the people that are doing it are intrinsically wrong for doing it. They're doing it for the right reasons. They're wrong, but they're doing it for the right reasons. I'm just saying there's a difference between, it's not 100% offered. It's not like everybody that becomes a Baptist is a Baptist because they were presented with an argument and they just decided that was the best argument. Most of the people are Baptists because they were brought up to be Baptists. Their parents are doing what their parents did, and their parents did before them. So it's not.
I'll say this: living in Utah, the Mormon state, it's very interesting to be an atheist here because I'm in high school. A lot of the kids there are Mormons or Christian. So when I answer saying I'm an atheist, I get mega shunned.
Yeah,
I still
mega shunned.
I do I'll finish the classwork. I actually do the majority of if we ever do a group thing, I usually do the majority of the work. But for some reason, my classes and my teachers, they still just don't like me.
Yep.
Because I have the wrong think. And I have theist friends, I have if you guys watched my last video, I was with a guy called Spartacus, and he is a hardcore, he's a Mormon. But we can get along. But for some reason, just no one else likes to talk to me.
It's funny because if I had been an out of the closet atheist in high school, I would have had the same problem. But in high school, I was a Baptist. I was like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So I never came across that issue until I was 28 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So
I've never even been to church. I mean, I've been to funerals, and that's held in churches and shit like that. But I've never attended a church meeting. I've never had to pick up a Bible or anything. I've never had to listen to Psalms or anything like that. But so
Right. Well, all right. So I by way of comparison, as a kid, I remember my dad saying that it was by the grace of God that he didn't kill me.
Great.
Yep.
Nice of it.
No. Hear me out. Hear me out. I know that sounds crazy, but like he literally said that because we lived in the age of grace, he didn't have to kill me for doing something like reading the horoscope.
Oh, so he's saying like the burden isn't on his shoulders anymore.
Essentially, right. So any kind of witchcraft worship or anything like that is punishable by death by the old law.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
It's pretty decent of him not to stone you to death.
So reading the horoscope should have been punishable by death. But because we lived in an age of grace, he didn't kill me if I did that because of Jesus, right? So it's really like that's kind of my point. Like I believed ardently in God until I was like 28 years old, not because it was presented to me in a reasonable fashion, but because it was beaten into me from the time I was born until I got free and was no longer getting beaten by it. This is why I say there is a difference between being presented.
You suddenly sound like you're not eating the microphone.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no.
It does, yeah.
What I was referring to was the growth within the church, or the growth outside of the church, them bringing members in, not raising members up. I mean, there's a big difference, but I understand why the indoctrination happens. Like that's not like my wife and I encourage our children to be free thinkers, but in its own way, that is a form of indoctrination. It's in our minds an objectively better indoctrination, but you can't just raise your kids completely free. They won't ever learn anything. And so it's one of those, like I understand why it happens. If I ardently believed like some of my friends do, then yeah, like I'll do anything to save my child from eternal torment.
Yeah.
And so
everyone just hang on a sec, because I think Bible Belt Atheist was trying to say something then, and it keeps cutting him off.
I was just gonna ask Avatar what grade was he in? So
when I was being shunned,
like, because you said you were in high school. Didn't you say you were in high school now?
Yeah, I'm in high school.
What grade are you in?
I am in late junior.
Okay.
Yeah,
because I'm a senior right now. So
yeah, y'all can't be friends then.
Yep. But it's really interesting for me because my dad is a creationist.
Oh.
Yeah. And he'll make tons of arguments saying, God created the earth and I should be religious. And, he's very nice. I'll burn in hell if I don't. So
here's a question.
That's what kind of turned me off to religion in the first place.
So, growing up, were you attempted to have been indoctrinated and it just didn't stick? Or were you...
Well, like I said, I've never even been to a church. So, I mean, that was kind of hard to happen. My mother...
You said your dad was a creationist, so...
Yeah, he tried. He tried to indoctrinate me into his way of thinking. I just couldn't get my mind around it just because, I was already like understanding sciences and how the universe works, and it it didn't sound plausible in my head. So I
So
just,
wait, you mean you think it's older than 6,000 years?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Freaking.
So that's just blasphemy.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
obviously.
That's just blasphemy. I know. I'm such an asshole.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys, I cut out because my phone died.
Oh, okay. That's you're using a phone, huh?
Yeah, I don't have a computer.
All right. Well, I think we need to start a GoFundMe.
Also, I didn't mean to be like a over talking dick earlier. I'm sorry.
You're fine, dude. You're fine.
But I want to jump on the IEQ stuff quick because I think there's I don't think I explained it very well. So there's still the group and stuff with it. So I just pulled this up on the page to make sure I could. This is just right out of the Wikipedia. But so intrinsic is like the religion and the teaching are true, and you try to live in your life in accordance with it. So there's still going to be groups and stuff around it. And what we find with intrinsic people that score high intrinsic religiosity still have big in-group, out-group stuff. So there's the recent study that came out talking about a prisoner experiment, or the prisoner's game that they run, and that found that if Christians knew you're an atheist, they're less likely to share this stuff with you than other atheists and stuff. So this is something that was just reported on, I don't know, a couple weeks back. I don't know if you guys have seen that.
No, out of curiosity, what's the prisoner's experiment?
It's about sharing resources and stuff like that. I'll find the exact. But yeah, it's about equally sharing the resources and all that other stuff. And there's kind of what it goes through. I don't know the whole detail, but it's one that they use a lot. And so, if they knew you were an atheist, the Christians weren't gonna share it with you. They're gonna be outright there. So you weren't getting the equal thing where atheists kind of split it equally among everybody. So that's still something. That's a component in both extrinsic and intrinsic religiosity. So whether the religion itself is just the belief, and then if you have other motivating reasons. So and the extrinsic is usually political stuff. So not necessarily political stuff, but it's the best way to bring it about. So
Like tribal.
Well, there's tribal in any way in either of these orientations. So religion is the means to get other things done. So you got I'll pull this quote up from so yeah, provide security and solace, sociability and distraction, status and self-justification. So that's what's tied to extrinsic, and that's from Alpert and Ross from 1967. When they formulated this idea. Mm-hmm. The extrinsic stuff, and then there's a third one called that's rather new that's been added, is quest religiosity. So they view religion as a search for the truth kind of thing. So even though we're not religious, we would probably score really high in the quest religiosity.
Yeah,
that's the one that tends to share all this stuff. And the only reason I bring this stuff up and I know about is I don't know how familiar you guys are with Friended Forever.
Yeah.
Well, so this is his big thing on trying to use Christianity because it's got all these good things in there to give in there and stuff. And the big problem I see with his whole argument is we're seeing a growth of extrinsic religiosity correlated stuff, which has all of the bad. It correlates really well with all the bad stuff, all the prejudice, all the stuff even worse than that. And his belief that Christianity, an intrinsic belief in that, if you could somehow get someone to get that intrinsic belief, that doesn't do away with the other negative social things to the out group that are inherent with it. And so,
the one thing I've noticed about Friended, when Friended talks about things, he gets into a conversation. It's like the first 45 minutes, he's really cogent, and he makes a lot of sense, and then he just falls apart. Towards the end, he just falls apart because he runs out of like reasonable arguments, and he just starts claiming that he's the only person with evidence. And yeah,
He's
I-
got,
like
he has
he's-
a bad habit of strawmanning the hell out of everybody and implying all sorts of fallacious stuff onto everybody.
Well, I mean, he is a fan of Jordan Peterson, so
Well,
I mean
it's
that's built into his things. If he would stick more to Jonathan Haidt, I think that he would do better.
I don't even think his argument
except that he like misquotes Jonathan Haidt. You know what I mean? Like he takes Jonathan Haidt out of context.
I don't know about that because
No.
apparently Haidt and E.O. Wilson like him enough for him to produce content for him.
Yeah,
I don't think they're all out of context. I think he's probably not the best at explaining it, but apparently both Haidt and Wilson like him.
and don't get me wrong, because I like Haidt and Wilson, but I think that they, like you said, they're missing some very crucial caveats in that field, because of course beliefs inform actions. Everybody knows that. And the negative consequences of religion aren't weighed properly against the positive benefits of religion in those arguments. And I can understand why they make the arguments and why Friend does what he does, but at the same time, I think that one, there's a misweighing of the evidence, and they downplay the negative sides of Christianity in particular, and upplay the good side.
Actually, when I read The Righteous Mind, like the thing that struck me the hardest was Haidt's downplay of the caste system in the Hindu culture, where he was like, well, you know, like the way the Hindus approach things, he was like, well, I thought it was one way, then I went and lived with them for a while, and I realized it worked really well for their society. And it was like, well, yeah, maybe that's true, but the caste system sucks. You know, like, this fucking sucks, dude. Like, it doesn't matter, like, that some people do really well under it, or that, like, the average, you know, nuclear family functions really well under Hinduism. Like, on a whole, it's bad. And we can prove that because India's a fucking mess. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a fucking mess. You know, like, so, yeah, I mean, like, I loved The Righteous Mind. I thought it was a great book. I loved the insights I got from it. But I would say that, on the whole, the idea that just anything that's sacred to people is good is a weak argument. I would say just because we hold things to be sacred doesn't make them so. Like, it's based on a foundational falsehood. It's based on ridiculous notions that were carved out by people that didn't understand what was going on in the world around them. And it's probably better on the whole to base our societal structure on evidence and things that we can quantify on the whole.
And if they would go beyond just the IE distinction, I don't know if Haidt or Wilson accept or reject the quest religiosity, because I know that's relatively new to the field. But
would you define that? I might have missed it. You might have already defined it, and I missed it. But would you define that real quick?
So here's a quote from Batson. An individual who approaches religion in this way recognizes that he or she does not know and probably never will know the final truth about such matters. Still, the questions are deemed important, and however tentative the subjects to change, answers are sought. So it's a way of approaching our religion. So I would look at most of us and think we're all would score real high in that category, because we've all left religion because we don't think it's true. You know.
Mhm.
So that the idea is that we're questing towards ultimate truth.
Yeah, so what we're trying to do is find the truth of things. So then the IE stuff is what they focus on. The intrinsic stuff is where the religion in itself is an ends, instead of just for like self-serving needs. It's the religion itself. So the faith, the practice, all that stuff is for the religion itself, and it's not, oh, I want to, get this thing passed or get this, this there. I want to use a group to meet my goals. It's the religion itself is there. That's the intrinsic one. And like I said, I don't know if Hyde or Wilson accept or reject it. I mean, there's problems with the IE stuff going all over it. It's not a really well-defined theory, but it's been in use for so long, and it, the categorizations seem to map certain stuff, so they seem to make useful predictions, but there's not a really well-grounded theory in it. So that's a problem. But even if we go by and accept, well, this theory is good, there's this stuff here. But yeah, so the intrinsic stuff and brings all the pro-social aspects within the in-group, right? So that's
okay.
The intrinsic stuff doesn't. But
just a quick question. So is this focusing on the utility of intrinsic religiosity in humans?
Well, so this is what this is where their friend's argument is coming from, and it's kind of a weird one because he seems to think it's way ahistorical, a lot of his stuff here, but that Christianity has this, oh, we're all one thing, and that's why we produce all this good stuff here, and it's like that does not seem to map with history at all. Well,
it doesn't even map with Christianity.
I know, that's his thing. But he's thinking he wants the pro-social aspects of intrinsic religiosity. Because with the in-group, you do all the sharing, all this other stuff there, but the out-group you're going to treat like shit. And that's well within the studies and stuff here. But he focuses on the in-group, and he wants like a culture of Christianity, but that seems like a very extrinsic religiosity that he's trying to promote. So it doesn't match.
Well, right. And it also matches up to my argument against the universal morality in the sense that, like, even though there's probably an objective morality in the sense that there has to be some level of objectiveness in order for a social species to survive.
Mm-hmm.
There is also, the tribalism that happens, right? So you've got, like, one group goes to another group. They don't treat each other the same, right? And so, I mean, Friendon's argument falls apart on so many different levels. It's not even funny. I mean, you could have a cultural Christianity, but which one?
I have to interrupt this real quick. My buddy just texted me, and he's watching the stream right now, and he goes, theist arguments break easily. They're the NPCs of they're NPCs. And he texts me again. He goes, "This stream is nothing but full of atheistic faggots versus theist faggots."
Well, I'm certainly
a bunch of faggots
about an atheist right now, but
I'm certainly
a bunch of faggots.
So we're good. Nope, I'm all about the dick. I'm cool with it.
Like about that, do you?
He says it's all one big dick party.
We didn't even get some vagine in here.
Like I keep saying, I'm not holding a dildo, it's a beer bottle.
It's a dildo.
Keep telling yourself that fact.
Quit trying to hide it. It's a dildo.
They can both be used for the same purpose.
Can.
You just have to drill a hole in the bottom of the fucking bottle.
Except one can break and it might hurt you.
Oh dear.
Although the other one can hurt you too. So.
Oh fuck.
One costs $2 if you buy it single. The other one costs you your marriage.
I can't find the picture. No, I'll have to come back to that.
Did we lose?
Oh, yeah. Way off topic.
I was gonna say this is a dildo and show you the most amazing dildo I've ever found.
Nah, I think I know what's coming.
Oof.
I can't find it for a minute though.
Number.
No, I'm still here. I forgot I was muted.
Oh. You've been muted for a long time, buddy.
I haven't added much. Actually, I was listening. So to Red.
You were listening to us talk about badgers and dildos.
Oh, that too.
Yeah, Red's really smart.
I can't see the picture I normally use.
Are they saying that? Do we have religion do you think without religion back then would society be what it is today? I mean, do we have religion to thank for our society?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
I
want to say no.
After the earliest signs of religious ceremonies only go back about 100,000 years.
Absolutely.
We were already species living together.
I think you have to go back.
I said do we have to thank it for our society? It's not for people. People
I don't think
evolved on their own, but I mean, do you think that?
I would say
the societies we were already living together before that, and
oh
so
my god, Badger, what the fuck is that?
But yeah,
Humans are a social species, so there is a natural there's a natural propensity for humans to sort of group together and form in groups and out groups. But as well as that, the humans are very keen on pattern recognition, and don't like things they don't understand, so tend to form religious
I would say
around things that they don't
purpose.
understand.
I would say
Take you seriously when you're talking about religion and your photo is a dildo.
it was really hard.
I think that question's almost unanswerable, to be honest with you. I mean, it's like, would things be different if things were different?
Right.
And
Perhaps mistakes, Badger.
Granted, would these be different if they were different? But I think we can look back at human species and say that the religiosity has provided measurable group cohesion.
I'll give you something measurable.
yeah, I mean that's
Yeah.
that.
I mean,
but
I'm
the
not
argument
saying-
that you could
But I'm not saying it's still necessary. It's not necessary anymore. But there was an argument to be said that
I didn't say it was still necessary. I just said, do we have it to thank for society as it is today?
Okay,
that,
so
that was my basic question.
Yeah.
I didn't ask if it was still relevant or if it was still necessary. I'm just saying, do you think it was necessary at the time? Do you think that we would have the same? I think that's what they're getting at with this argument is.
Okay,
we
so
have had the same group cohesion.
I would say no.
Yeah, I'd say no too.
Say no. I would say no.
Because it doesn't stop inventions from happening. It doesn't stop the society continuing forward with their technological advances, because that's ultimately what keeps societies going.
I think.
So,
let's see.
I would say no.
I think that you can. I think that you can craft a credible case that would include religion as a major player to where we're at today. In direct answer to Mole's question, could we have gotten there differently? Absolutely.
Oh, most certainly. I mean, for sure.
But for where we're at today, I mean, because you got to think a lot of the first natural sciences were religious in nature, even though they developed rapidly after that. But our beginning, and then you can look at the church's contribution and the understanding of the funding of the original things like that. I think you can make a credible case, but that case is kind of irrelevant, to be honest with you, because you could easily envision a scenario where it happened completely differently and we wound up in more or less the same place. So
but
you could envision that. You could envision that scenario, but that's not the scenario that we live in. You know what I mean? So, I mean, the question is, did religion play a part in our achieving what we have? And I would say that the demonstrable answer is yes.
Sure.
Yeah. That's obvious, but
the only argument that I tried to make was, does a religion affect a inventor's creation or a scientist's way of discovering new things?
yes,
It can. I mean, look. I mean, the church and Galileo Galilei and Copernicus.
Well,
And,
it can also
I mean,
Well, I mean, in Copernicus,
it can also affect it negatively. If you look at like Isaac Newton, who was constantly trying to square the circle to make his God fit into his equations. You know what I mean? Like it can work both ways.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the thing. Like we are innately religious. We are innately
More or less
religious.
instinctual.
You know,
I think one thing we gotta realize in some cases, like especially the Copernicus and Galileo situations, is that the scientific models they were putting forward were a lot more predictive than the geocentric models of the time. Unfortunately,
Yeah,
so that's part of the resistance to those ideas. It's not all just this goes against our religion. I mean,
yeah, it was political as well.
I mean, we had
Right,
it.
what you're saying?
Who was,
no, they weren't any better.
No, they were worse.
They were worse than the predictive models of the time. So even though they were right, and that's again, I'm glad you brought up this point, Red, because people don't really get that. They were right, but they weren't more predictive at the current time. That was bad science at the time. That's one reason it was resisted so heavily.
Yeah. I mean, it was resisted in ancient Greece as well. There was, I mean, we don't have the surviving what the model was. I forget the guy's name, but Archimedes brings up a heliocentric model. That Archimedes didn't do it, but he brings up the other guy who did it.
Okay.
I can't remember his name either, but it's just the guy that
discovered
calculated
that
the distance to the sun by going to different points in Greece and measuring the
Eratosthenes or whatever his name was.
That's the sphere. No, this guy. The thing that we have from this guy is the size of the sun and the moon, where he well, it's about like 6, 7, whatever the difference is between the size of the Earth and stuff, and the different size. And so part of what we think he came to the conclusion that the heliocentric model was because the sun was however many times bigger that he put forward. That's what they believe. He came and said, well, if it's so much bigger, why would that be rotating around us? Kind of thing. Mm-hmm. It violated Aristotle's laws of motion and stuff at the time, and it so it's heavily resisted and didn't come there. But yeah, that's part of the problem is there wasn't a good model until we could see the parallax, which wasn't until the 18th century.
Yeah,
we had technology strong enough to see that parallax.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I would say that religion served a purpose until it didn't. That would be my argument, is that for social cohesion, for social structure, religion has served its purpose up to now.
Mm-hmm.
But that it was in fact necessary to get us to where we're at.
Yeah, I think it was
I'm planning to do a
way
video
to
on
shape people's social lives.
So Conquering Thought had a question that kind of I was tempted to ask as well. He says, how the heck are you defining religious that can make people innately religious? That would be to do.
I would say, like,
I would say as a pattern-seeking animal, like we tend to be, at least we seem to tend to be innately religious in our history. I'm not saying they were innately religious by default.
Wouldn't superstitious be a better way to put it than religious, Duke?
Okay. Well, let's say superstitious, but do you really delineate very heavily between the two?
So I think that Conquering Thought's point here which is what he said. How are you defining religious that can make people innately religious? I think it's from my perspective. It kind of broadens the term beyond usefulness. Would be.
So
but except it hasn't been useless. I mean, like the entire idea of religiosity in the human species has been useful to us up to a point. Yeah. Right. So look, we are pattern-seeking animals, right? You can take any group of people. You can take people that are totally not religious at all, but they still buy into woo. They still buy into crystals, to still buy into things. Like
People trying to
there's-
anthropomorphize things they don't
Right.
understand.
exactly. There is a tendency, right? When I say innately religious or intrinsically religious, I'm not saying that they have to believe in a God figure. All I'm saying is, and maybe superstitious is a better word, right? But in that sense, I think we're kind of getting into a definition game, in the sense where I'm saying one thing in context, and it kind of means the same thing, even if you use superstitious or religious, in the sense that people tend to look to fill the gaps in their knowledge one way or another, right? And that seems to be an intrinsic nature of humans, right? And I would argue that that's pretty well backed up just by human nature across the entire spectrum for as long as there have been humans, right? And that's the reason why so many people are religious, and it's the reason why religion has such a foothold on humanity. It's because somewhere inside of us, there's a part of us that is seeking for something like that, right? A pattern-seeking part of us that is absolutely trying to find meaning in life outside of ourselves. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's correct. I'm just saying it's a glitch in the system.
Well, I don't think that's
That's a pretty good answer.
yeah, I don't think it's all human either. I mean, there's a pretty famous if you've heard of the pigeon experiment.
Yeah.
They did back.
Yeah.
I mean, they developed pretty intensive rituals to get food out of it, because they fed it randomly. Well, and he tried to do the same thing to get the food again. Well, and eventually, because they're doing it randomly, whole new ritual system they built.
Yeah.
So that's definitely there. And I've also heard, I think it was on one of Steve McRae's stream, someone was bringing up split brain stuff, where both sides of our brain there's kind of there, but they don't always align there. So you kind of get the feeling that there's an other there, and that's probably where they think the things like the soul and even God.
So
Yeah.
that's where the idea of superstition comes from then, and like it's just like a glitch in our brain, and we think that if we do that again, that's going to happen to us again.
Well, the
So
pattern.
That's a part of it. That's a part of it. But there's also the huge amount of the huge amount of self-talk that we do with ourselves inside of our own brains, right? So there's an internal dialogue happening constantly. There's all kinds of shit, and we're making predictions, and something happens, and it seems to fit in with some weird circumstance that makes it seems like providence, and so we accept it as providence. So it's like we're kind of intrinsically wired to find meaning where there's no meaning. And as a result, we become religious because there's no better answer, because we don't have the evidence. And because as a species, we tend to lean towards finding evidence where there's no evidence.
That's what the dildo was saying earlier. It's pattern seeking.
Well,
Yeah, going
And
back
try-
on that, do you know the badger experiment, the pigeon experiment that Red was talking about? The badger experiment.
all jokes aside,
They use dildos to get what they want.
all jokes aside, am I making sense or am I just babbling?
No,
I think you're providing a pretty good
Yeah,
answer.
half and half.
I'd say half and half.
Yeah.
I think you know what you're trying to say, but you've been up far too long to say it.
Yeah, no, and I don't doubt that there is an intrinsic pattern-seeking nature to humans, or that's one of the major causes of religion, or basically anything that you said there. I was just trying to relay what conquering thought got, and I think it's basically a definitional issue for the term religious, because I think you can credible case that we're spiritual in nature, that we see things that aren't there, but I don't think that you can make a credible case that you're Baptist or Christian by nature. That's just a byproduct of the
Right. Okay. So I'm not making the argument that you're Christian by nature, and I'm not making the argument that you're a specific religion by nature. right? I would say that you are indoctrinated to be a member of a religion. But I would say that human beings at least seem, to be susceptible to accepting religious belief.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So,
think it's a
right?
definitional thing.
Maybe
that's
more
what I mean.
innately
That's what I mean.
spiritual than innately religious.
Well, spiritual's the same. To me, spiritual's the same thing, in the sense that you have a tendency, like humans have a tendency to try to find something that is outside of themselves and transcendent of themselves.
They try to find the answers that they can't provide.
Right. And they tend to see them as transcendent from themselves. So they tend to see answers that are bigger than themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Outside of themselves. And so we lean towards things like religion because they make for easy answers to hard questions that we can't answer for ourselves.
So basically, to boil down what you say, humans are social animals, and they come together to find answers that they can provide. That's basically what it boils down to.
It boils down to that, but it also boils down to the whole idea that you have ancestry. Things are handed down to you, right? You have traditions, you have religions, you have these things that are handed down to you, and there's a part of it seems to be a part of the human psyche that is kind of leans towards accepting things based on faith.
It's that fucking boom. So I think okay, so what I'm trying to say is, since they can't find the answer, like what you said, the reasoning for life, they look to a man-made creation for that answer. They say, well, if I can't find a reason for existence, then it's got to be something or someone else who caused it.
Right, they create something.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, like I would say there's pretty good evidence over the course of human history, considering how many religions we have and how many different explanations have been created, to say that there is at least some part of the human psyche that is intrinsically religious, in the sense that there's some part of the human psyche that will always, or will at least mostly, lean towards some kind of explanation when there's not one handy.
But I think what Evans was saying was right in the first. It's a definition problem we're having here.
Sure.
I don't think religious is the right word you're looking for to explain what you're. Religious would mean that you find something. We're saying spiritual works better because everybody has that sense of wonder. Okay, we're looking for answers that we can't find. We have that sense of wonder. But religious implies that but religion implies that we worship things. We don't necessarily worship things, but we do tend to look for wonder. I mean,
I think a possible way of putting
we're
it
curious.
is that
Except
there
that
is-
the majority of human beings worship something, right?
there's the pattern recognition thing, and also it's comforting to think that there is some big all-powerful force in control of everything, because otherwise everything is incomprehensible.
Right.
Humans do not like things to be beyond their comprehension.
They don't like it being out of. I don't want to say order, but maybe it is. They don't want it to be chaotic, I guess.
Yeah.
Is the word.
Fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
Well, it's a simple step to get.
So if you want to say there's a difference between spiritual and religion, okay, I'll grant you that. Except that the majority of humans are religious.
Mm-hmm.
So my point is that we created all these religions to make sense of things, and humans tend to lean heavily towards those things?
It's because I don't want to say. Well, maybe we, we're so accustomed to religion and just taking comfort in the fact that an omnipresent, omniscient force is control of everything, that we don't look for the answers ourselves.
Yeah,
We don't
and maybe
that's something
maybe
I'm
that's
planning to
true,
do a video on. Is that
I mean,
it
my
has
whole
taken me absolutely years to get out of my head the idea that it'll all be all right. Some cosmic force will sort this out for me, and I don't have to deal with it myself. It's taken me absolutely years to get over this idea and get in my head, actually, no, I need to, if I want this to go right, I need to make it go right and fix it myself.
Then you need
and
to
that's
go
my
back to
point. There seems to be some part of our psyche that leans heavily towards that.
Well, it's not a far jump, especially with the way that we control the environment and the way that we control our circumstances and the way that we control our families and our in groups and our friends and things like that. To imagine that there could be something doing that to us. I mean, I think that's a perfectly reasonable God hypothesis. But that innate sense, the pattern recognition, the sense that there should be something more, could be more, anything like that, I would say that would be the basis for religion, but not religious in nature.
Sure, you have that claim, and then you just got to provide.
Okay, so it's the basis. So our intrinsic nature is the basis for religion, but it's the reason for religion also. So
yeah,
so I would when I say humans are intrinsically religious, you're right. Maybe spiritual is a better way to say it. Like we're getting into a definition.
I don't think spiritual is the way to say it, because that has its own hiccups as well. Humans have a nature, and that nature lends itself to religious thinking.
That's what I'm saying. That is exactly what I'm saying. To the T. We have a nature, and it lends us towards religious thinking. And as a result, we have a buttload of religions.
Yeah, and that's not a very out there claim. I mean, it's. I would find it common sense that humans do have that kind of instinct.
But that goes back to, I would call it superstition rather than religion. We're not innately religious.
Yeah,
that's a word we made up. We're innately superstitious. We tend to make connections that aren't really there.
But superstition is a word we made up too. I mean.
But I mean, it explains it better than religion.
No, I understand, because the superstitious has a connotation that we're looking for reasons that aren't there, whereas religious defines more of a specific set. But I would like to throw the caveat in there that even though these things are somewhat human universal, there are people who have no religious tendencies at all.
Well, that's true, but I would say that our majority,
yeah, I would say most people
have a religious tendency, and I wouldn't even call it a superstitious religion tendency. I would say that most people have a religious tendency. I mean, I don't think it's just superstition. Maybe there's something crazy. I would say that there's a very hard lean in humanity towards believing in God belief. And I was saying that because the majority of people believe in God belief, in spite of the evidence. I mean, it just seems to be.
So that doesn't make it innate then. Innate would mean we all believe it, not just some. All.
Well, no,
it wouldn't be an innate.
Innate means that it's in everybody. That's what it means.
It's been hard.
The definition
I
of
say that a sense of empathy is innate, but that's not in everyone. There are people who lack it, but they are the exception to that rule.
Exactly, innate. I'm talking about the human species in general, right? So the human species in general seems to have an innate or intrinsic lean towards religiosity. Now, there may be exceptions to that rule, but that doesn't mean that the general rule isn't that most people tend to lean towards some kind of God belief.
Yeah, we're covering the same ground. Significantly.
Yeah,
So
it's
issues like
one and the
the-
same.
I think this was an issue that's come up a few times. It's just an issue of specific terminology. Just
Yeah, absolutely.
it's important,
Wait,
And
it's important to just
We can't disagree. We're an echo chamber.
talking
Yeah.
exactly talking about the same thing.
where's Fred at? Damn it.
Yeah. We can't possibly
Well,
disagree. We're an echo chamber.
No, like,
Oh God.
if I'm missing on the definitions, I apologize. But
No,
Yeah.
I was just making a joke because were you here last Sunday when Fred was saying that we're nothing but an echo chamber? We just agree on
No,
everything. We
yeah.
just-
I was.
Yeah.
I was. I got the
Maybe
joke.
Scott was calling him an asshole.
I got the joke. I was just saying, if I'm missing on the
Hey man, get the dick out of your mouth before you try to talk.
I
Get your
can't.
dildo
I
out of your mouth.
Look, I get paid by the hour, Evans. Okay, I get
Well,
paid by
give all
the
the-
hour.
Wants to give all the glory hole to God.
God damn it, Patrick.
Look,
Put in your mouth, dude.
look, you just cost me $45 okay?
$45.
No, what I'm saying is if it's just a definitions thing and we're missing on the definitions thing, I apologize. Right? I have a hard time
You
like.
don't have to apologize.
one of-
I mean, I
Well,
just-
no, but just
This is
just
why
hear
I
me
let
out.
you guys explain this shit because I suck at it.
One of the things that throws me often in conversation is like the definitions game, where like the context of what I'm saying is sound, but the word that I used wasn't exactly right, and so we get into a hullabaloo where realistically, all right, so I'll rephrase it. I'll rephrase the entire thing. So humans have a tendency towards supernatural belief.
Mm-hmm. I'm following.
okay.
Yeah.
Is that it?
That's it.
There it is.
Humans have a
Hey,
tendency
see?
towards supernatural belief.
Let's
Okay,
erase
I
the
can
last
get behind
45 minutes of Duke talking and just move on from here. We all agree.
I'm up in a
I can
few
get behind that one.
I call it religious. I call it religious belief because the overall tendency seems to be religion, not supernaturalism, not superstition. If you look at the
I think
entire
the
human
tendency-
species,
I
if you look
think
at
the
the entire
tendency seems to be religion because there are so many already established religions for people with a supernatural bent to
Lean,
latch
yeah.
onto.
Yeah.
that's a fair assessment. But when I say that we are intrinsically religious, it just means that we are intrinsically looking for something bigger than ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You can call it supernatural or you can call it religion. I don't know.
And I think it,
To me, I don't think there's a big distinction between the two.
and I think, like I
just don't
said,
see-
was early humans, they tried to find explanations for things that they just couldn't find at the time. So anything that was that anything was strange to them or unknown to them, it had to be an outside force that made it so.
Except that it's still so prevalent.
Yeah.
You can't shake hundreds of thousand years of fucking evolution of our brain to fucking just discard what, we've used as an explanation for hundreds of thousands of years.
Mhm.
I mean, so of course it's natural for humans to still latch onto that. But is that intrinsically religious, or is that just something that's been ingrained into our fucking psyche for so long that it just seems that way?
Or is there just a stigma on the word religion? So that if we say intrinsically religious, that has a negative connotation, and so
That
we
could be
substitute
too.
the word. Or
There
so we
definitely is a
substitute
stigma on the word.
I mean, like, you see where I'm going with that? Like,
Yeah.
what's the difference between superstition and religion? They're the same fucking thing.
No, they're
I-
not definitionally.
Maybe not definitionally, but colloquially, in terms of dealing with your average person, yeah, if you're talking from a philosophical standpoint, they're different. But if you're
No,
talking
even
about
with your average person, superstition would be viewed as like horoscopes and rabbit's foots and
knocking on wood,
things like
and
that.
all that shit.
Whereas religion would be orchestrated with something like Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Hinduism, things like that. Like those.
There's a bit more of an organized focus.
Yeah,
that is
religion
implied by the word
revolves around a worship of a deity and can have connotations of like an organized system of faith, but bare bones. Whereas superstition
can just be like an urban story.
yeah, superstition would not fit the same definitional because it's superstition is especially even colloquially is almost like a credulous belief in something that an unexplained phenomenon, and more of like a reverence or a respect for unexplained phenomena.
how is that not religion?
Because
Like,
it's two completely different things.
Yeah, like what we think of religion is like it's incredulous to me. Religion is incredulous, but what he's saying is like superstition is like we know that knocking on wood does no fucking good, but yet people still do it. I mean, it's an incredulous belief that something's going to change the outcome. That's what makes it so different.
Don't you be saying that? I've been knocking on wood for years.
That's
Superstition.
what makes it so different, though. It's
knocking on wood.
You're knocking on wood. Don't break
wood.
It's outward.
So then, how would you explain the religiosity of humans? Is it just because they're taught that, or is it because humans are seeking something?
I would say that humans have a proclivity to seek patterns and to attempt to explain unknown phenomena in any ways possible. I think that you can make a credible case that religion wasn't around during the part of human history. So you could make a credible case that it came along somewhere like that. But I would say that humans have a proclivity to be religious, but I would not make the distinction that humans are religious by nature, if that makes any sense. And I would definitely say that
all right, so
essentially
what I'm saying is that we have, when I say intrinsic, what I mean is we have a tendency to lean towards some form of religious belief, which I would say is pretty well documented just by the fact that there are so many different religious beliefs.
I don't disagree.
So, all right, so we agree.
So, Mr. Fred.
Yeah,
so
we
Mr.
agree.
Fred, are we in an echo chamber? Because we've been talking about this for like 15 minutes.
I think we agree, and there's just some weird definitional thing that's going on that is causing
it's definitely definitional.
Sure.
I don't know. Yeah, moving on, though. I mean, yes, humans tend to believe stupid, crazy shit fucking runs through it, but that doesn't make us innately religious. I don't think it's a born-in thing. I think it's a taught thing.
Okay, well, all right, so...
all right, I got to bounce out while we're here. I got to
get going in a minute, too. So.
Yeah, been fun, guys. Y'all take it easy.
It has been. Bye-bye. Having a good time.
See you later, chat.
I got to bounce here soon, too. I could stick around a little longer.
I haven't been.
Badger, stop knocking on wood.
No.
That dildo makes a loud noise on wood.
Yeah, that's like you got a hard ass dildo, homie. You need to find a new dildo.
You said it's not made of wood.
Well, okay.
Oh,
It sounds like it.
well, that
Plastic.
dildo must have. I mean, look at that
Concrete.
thing. It must have taken a long time to paint if it were wood. Also, did mold. That's some smooth ass wood there. Where'd you find that?
Right, Mr. Mole, I think
Yes, sir.
we should try to organize a chat with
Fred.
what's it called? Fred, yeah.
Yeah, we could do
We
that
should
sometime.
I think I will
Is he in the chat?
No,
I
no,
don't.
he has never appeared. I don't
I
think.
think if we set up a time when we'll both be about and have a live stream, and I'll send him emails and tweets and everything in advance saying that we're gonna have a live stream at this time. If you're about and fancy dropping in for a chat, then that'll be great. We'll have a chat. And if not, just talk about something else.
Just I plan on doing this every Sunday probably, or try to anyway. So not Sundays, any day but Sunday, I would say.
Yeah, hopefully you can do this every Sunday because that's like the only time I'm available.
Well, everybody's available on Sunday mornings. Well, while everybody else is out being reverent, we can be irreverent here.
Yeah. I can wave dildos around.
And we can talk about their silliness and their intrinsic or non-intrinsic being religious or not. Things like that.
Hey,
this is actually, no, that's fine. There's nothing to be sorry about. It made us think. It's a good conversation.
Oh,
shit. Never be sorry about that, dude. Never, ever be sorry.
Sorry if I derailed the conversation. It was just one of those things.
Oh, no, dude. It was a good conversation.
Where
I may not agree with you completely. That doesn't mean it was a bad conversation.
Yeah.
See, we're not an echo chamber.
No, it's good to have disagreements.
Hey, Fred, get over here.
Huh?
No. Just saying, Fred, get over here. We're not an echo chamber.
No, I know. He'll figure that out someday. They just like to.
Anyway, guys, love you guys. Sorry if I derailed the conversation.
No worries. All right. Well, I am going to wrap up this stream for today, and I will see hopefully everybody next Sunday. Goodbye.
All right. See you.
Good night, everyone.
See you on the